Pray with me, please. Gracious Heavenly Father, open our ears and our hearts and our souls to what you would have us hear. And everything that is not from you, may it fall on deaf ears, and may it not produce anything in our lives or the lives of others. We praise your holy name, O God. Amen. So this morning, we're going to do things a little bit different because I like to mix it up. Not true, I do the same thing every day. But today, what we're going to do is I'm going to start at the end. Ooh, I know, very risque. I'm going to start at the end. I'm going to give you the application to the story, right? So I'm going to give away the ending, and then we're going to work backwards to the passage. And I'm going to do this because the end of our passage is actually the beginning of a long dialogue between Moses and God. It runs over the next couple chapters. And Moses and God sit down together, and they have this back and forth in which Moses is highly reluctant to accept God's offer to go to the Hebrews. And eventually, Moses agrees after God has demonstrated great and immense power and given significant guarantees. But the journey of Moses from, "Here I am, Lord," to, "Who am I, Lord?" to, "Please send someone else," is a fascinating journey that I think oftentimes many of us resonate with us. Because the conversation ends with the exasperated God saying, "Fine, I'm sending your brother Aaron with you." Now, when I went to seminary, I spent a lot of time discussing with others in the ministry about this call or this idea that I should go to seminary. Now, many of these people affirmed my gifts and listened to many of my concerns. But one of the themes that kept coming up over and over again was that I was not the only one hesitant to go to seminary. Many of these leaders in ministry were also very, very hesitant and even delayed their education or put it off for many years, having very successful careers. In seminary, when I arrived, many of my colleagues were the same way. Matter of fact, I met one man who was 89 years old who had just started seminary. His response when asked about it was, "I've put it off long enough. I suppose it's time to finally agree to what God has called me through all these years." Now, this isn't uncommon in churches. Many of the stories I've heard this summer, many people talk about, "I'm in a leadership position, but I'm not sure how I got there." Many feel that they're not cut out for it. They don't possess the talent, the background, or the experience, and many don't feel qualified for the leadership roles when they're asked. Yet, those same reluctant people are the ones who have demonstrated outstanding leadership, not only throughout the summer, but previously. And this is not unusual. One of the interesting things about history is that the great leaders that we learn about oftentimes did not ask to be put in those positions, but instead it was thrust upon them in moments of crisis, or people saw their potential and invited them to take part. It is also said that those who seek positions of power or invite themselves into those leadership positions can oftentimes be seeking the power of the position rather than truly deserving or desiring to help others. Now, one of the core themes that we've seen throughout many of our stories this summer is that the heroes and heroines have been thrust into these roles that they are not prepared for, whether that's Daniel, Naomi, Esther, Ruth, Deborah, Abraham, and now Moses. Their examples demonstrate reluctance in the face of often overwhelming odds or tasks. And yet, the key here is, with God's help, they accomplish extraordinary feats. So a few things about leadership this morning. One, I think we have to trust other people's assessment of our own gifts when we ourselves cannot see these. Now, it's not always foolproof, and certainly people get put in positions that they feel overwhelmed with, but I think when enough people come to us and they see something that we even ourselves don't see, it's something inside of us that says maybe we do have what it takes. Number two, I don't think reluctance is a bad thing. I think it means that it's a healthy thing, and that a person who is reluctant is also willing to listen to other people to figure out what is best for that position or what is best for that leadership position. And finally, I don't think leadership means that you are alone. I think it's a common misconception that once you are the leader, oftentimes you are isolated. But God explicitly says, I will be with you. And in the church, we never put anyone on an island. We are always there as a community making those decisions, surrounding them with other good people to help them make those decisions as we work as a community for the community. Now, let's move backwards. We come to the point where God is telling Moses, I have heard the Hebrews cry. I have seen their suffering, and I came down. Now, we have to think like an ancient person. As an ancient person, the question is, where are the gods? Where are the gods? There's not around us, so they must be somewhere else. Well, the common answer to that question is the gods are above us. The gods are in the heavens. They're in the clouds. They're on the mountains like Mount Olympus. And so how do we get the gods to hear and see of the things that we're doing? Well, one of the ways was that they would build their temples or their shrines on the mountains close to heavens so that the gods could hear the worship. But also they developed sacrifices because the aroma goes up into the air. And when it goes up into the air, the gods can smell it. And who doesn't like a good smell of barbecue? Unless you're vegan. In that case, probably not. But from the most part, they would enjoy the pleasing aroma. But there's still this question of how do we know that they're listening? How do we know that the gods are listening? And so when God says that he sees their suffering and he hears their suffering and that he has come down to be part of it, it is a statement of solidarity. God is saying to his people, I have heard and see, and I am here. Now, if you think about the other stories of gods, particularly if you're into Greek mythology, the gods come down when they want to come down.